All right, let's practice some sentences. I'm going to prompt you with English sentences based on the grammar from Unit 1, Lesson 11, and it's going to be your job to try to translate those sentences into Korean. The first sentence I would like you to try is, I cooked for an hour. I'll give you 10 seconds, and you can start now. Okay, here's the subject of the sentence. Now, I want to indicate that I did something for an hour. If I want to talk about just an hour, I need to use 한 시간. And if I want to indicate that something happened for a period of time, I want to put 동안 after the period of time. So this indicates that it happened for an hour. The verb that I did for an hour is cook. And in this case, it was in the past, so I cooked. So the verb for to cook is 요리하다, and it would look like this, but I'm going to conjugate this into the past tense, and I'll specifically do this formality of the informal high respect form of putting this 요 at the end. This sentence would read, 저는 1시간 동안 요리했어요. The next sentence I would like you to try is, I don't have plans next week. I'll give you 10 seconds, and you can start now. Okay, again, the subject of the sentence is I, so I'll put this here. Now I want to indicate the time in which I don't have something. The time is next week, so I can use the word for next, which is 다음, to mean next, and specifically it's next week, so I'll put 다음 주. That's the time periods, or the time, so I'll put A at the end of that. Now this just says I next week. I want to indicate that I don't have something, and if you want to indicate that somebody doesn't have something, you want to use the word 없다. And I'm going to conjugate this again into the informal high respect just for fun. Now I want to indicate the thing that I do not have, which is plans. As you learned in lesson 11, the noun for a plan is 계획. I'll put that here. And whenever you indicate that somebody doesn't have something, you want to use this particle on it here. So this whole sentence would read, 저는 다음 주에 계획이 없어요. The third sentence I would like you to try is, I eat meat once per day. I'll give you 10 seconds, and you can start now. Okay, again, the subject of the sentence is I, so I'll start the sentence like that. The noun for meat in Korean is 고기, and that's going to be the object of the sentence because it's the thing that I'm eating. So I'm going to put the object particle on it here. Now, if I want to indicate that I do something once per day, in one day, if I ever want to talk about one day, I have to use the word 하루. And if I ever want to indicate that something happens once per day or twice per day or 3 times per day, I can use this sort of structure by putting A at the end of whether it's 2 days or 3 days or 1 month or whatever the time period is. And it's going to happen once in this particular case. So I'll put 한 번 here. And again, if this happened twice per day, I would say 두 번. And if this happened 3 times per day, I would say 세 번. And if it happened once per 2 days, I would put 2 days here. I could say 이틀에, and then I could say once per day. So 이틀에 한 번. If it was twice per 2 days, it would be 이틀에 두 번. But in this particular case, it's once, which is just 한 번, and per day, which would be the 하루에. And specifically what I'm doing is I'm eating something. So I'm going to put the verb to eat, which is 먹다. And again, I'll conjugate it into the informal high respect form just for fun. This sentence would read, 저는 고기를 하루에 한 번 먹어요. The next 2 sentences we would like you to try are similar both in grammar structure and in vocabulary. So I'm going to show you both of them, and you can try to translate both of them at the same time. The first sentence is, the weather was hot for 3 days. And the next sentence is, the weather was hot on the 3rd. And when I say on the 3rd, what I'm specifically talking about is, if maybe you're saying the sentence on August 10th, you're going to say, well, on the 3rd, specifically on August 3rd, and I'm not actually saying August in this particular sentence, but for example, if I happen to be saying this on August 10th, I might be saying, oh, well, on the 3rd it was really, really hot. So that's the situation that I'm trying to create here. I'll give you 10 seconds, and you'll probably need more time because there's 2 sentences here, but take 10 seconds, and if you need more time, press the pause button, and I'll translate both of these for you after you're done. Okay, in both sentences, we're talking about the weather, so I'm going to put 날씨 at the beginning of both of them. You could put 날씨는 or you could put 날씨가. I'm going to put 날씨가 just because it would, in most situations, it would probably be more common to write 날씨가. You could put 날씨는 and the difference would be very slight, but there would be a difference, and this is sort of a thing that beginners of Korean have a hard time understanding, but I really don't want to focus on that right now. I just want you to know that you could put 는 or a ka, but in this case, I'm going to use ka because it's probably the most common one. Now, in both cases, I'm going to indicate that it was hot. And so I'll do that here, and the adjective to be hot is 덥다. But if it's being conjugated into the past tense, you need to know your lesson 7 irregulars. And I'm just going to have to specifically conjugate this like this, and it's in the past tense in the informal high respect. 더 왔어요. Now, in both sentences that I have right now, this just says the weather was hot and the weather was hot. I need to indicate that it was hot for 3 days and it was hot on the 3rd. As we saw in the first sentence that we created in this video, I need to use the word 동안. And that indicates that for this period, which I haven't written down yet, there was something happening. Well, what's the period? Well, what the period is 3 days. So I could write the numeral or I could write the word. I'll just write the numeral to make it simple. And 3 days is the period. So here it says the weather was hot for 3 days. Or in Korean, it would be 날씨가 3일 동안 더웠어요. Now, if I want to indicate that it happened, or it was hot on the 3rd, as you learned in my lessons, specifically in lesson 11, if you want to indicate that something occurred on a particular day of the month, and that's the sentence that we created here, what you do is you write down the day that it happened, followed by 일, and this looks very, very similar, but instead of saying 동안, you'd have to say 에. And this would say 날씨가 3일에 더웠어요. This might be a little bit awkward because, if it was, as I was saying before, if you were saying this on August 10th and you were referring to the 3rd day of August, you'd probably most likely say, oh, the weather was hot last week or something like that. However, maybe if it was sometime in December and you were talking about, oh, on August 3rd, it was really, really, really hot, you'd probably more likely say that you'd want to say that it was hot specifically on August 3rd. And if you wanted to say that, the way to say August in Korean is 8월, which is just the numeral 8, followed by 월, which means month. Now, this sentence here would specifically indicate the month and the day that it was hot, but this is not actually the sentence that I told you to create. I'm just telling you that maybe more commonly said like this if you're specifically referring to a day, but it is also possible to use the sentence that we created without the month. Maybe if, as I said, sometime if it was at the end of the month of August and you wanted to specifically refer to the 3rd day of that month. Well, that was fun. I hope you learned a lot.